Hey everyone, thanks for looking at this video, which is all about supporting your well-being and how to manage your academic stress, particularly important with the assessment period that will be coming up for you at the moment. So in this session, I'm going to be just going through some basic information about stress, including positive and negative stress, how to deal with stressful situations, relating this to academic stress, and some tips and some resources to help you manage academic stress as well. So first of all, just as a little bit of a reflection, just pause the video for a moment and think to yourself what comes to mind when you think of stress, as it's important to kind of get your reactions to this word, to think about where you're at the moment and maybe what you need to develop. Okay, so now you've unpaused. Essentially, there's no medical definition of stress, and healthcare professionals can often disagree about whether stress is the cause of problems or actually the result of problems. And also, what's really important to recognize is that stress can feel different to each person. So, what may cause you stress might be different from what causes one of your friends stress. And in the same way, you might be experiencing stress and someone else might be experiencing stress, but you might have different reactions to that stress. So when we think about stress, and if you think back to maybe what you jotted down when you paused the video, probably a lot of your words were related to negative stress, because when we do think about stress, we generally focus on the negatives. So on the right hand side of the screen here, so the feelings that you have when you're feeling stressed are potentially feeling irritable or nervous or afraid, not being able to switch off and stop thinking about the factors that are causing you stress. And sometimes even extending into physical symptoms such as racing heart or headaches as well. And obviously, that's the kind of stress that we do want to avoid. But at the same time, it is also important to note that stress can actually be positive in small amounts. So, having certain amounts of stress can lead you to feel motivated, to being excited by something, can actually then lead you to think, okay, I'm going to develop some problem solving skills to get past this challenge or this obstacle. And having a good level of challenge is what keeps us motivated in life. So, when something's too easy, that can often be as demotivating as when something's too hard. So, although we are thinking about stress in the context of academic stress and negative aspects of stress, it is also important to recognize that certain amounts of stress are what you can thrive on and what can actually get you motivated and get you through an assessment period. So again, just a moment for you to pause the video here and do a little bit of reflection in terms of how you deal with stressful situations. And obviously, this is only for yourself, so be completely honest with yourself and make a list of the ways that you feel and act when you feel stressed, both healthy and unhealthy responses. Okay, so now you've unpaused the video. Here are some examples that you may recognise in yourself, or there may be some new ones here as well. So obviously the healthy techniques are what we want to focus on. And if you are experiencing times of stress, these are the outlets that you need to put in place to be able to manage that stress effectively. So something as simple as speaking to a friend to get your worries off your chest. It doesn't necessarily make the problem go away, particularly if we're looking at academics, particularly if you're thinking about a deadline that you've got coming up. It doesn't remove the obstacle, but actually it can just help just to share that problem. Sometimes something as simple as going for a walk in the fresh air, clearing your mind. You might be working on a piece of coursework that you've just got writer's block on and you just can't get past what you need to do. Actually just moving, taking some time away from your workstation and actually getting out into the fresh air can really reinvigorate you for when you get back. It might be about keeping active, so sweating it out, getting your heart rate up, going for a run or going to the gym or going for a dance, something like that, just something to kind of really kind of keep active. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum as well, doing some relaxing, so with a film or book or crafting or meditation as well. And there's lots of resources available for simple meditation just to help if you are a beginner to that. And then unhealthy techniques, you might recognize some of these from your own list. Um, Obviously, these are the things that we want to avoid because although they might get rid of the stress feelings for that short time, they're not going to get to the root of the problem. So, using substances such as drugs or alcohol, sleeping too much or too little, These are all factors that will have an impact on your health as well, so will actually reduce the stress in the long term. Simply ignoring the problem in the hope that it will go away, yes, it might remove the stress for that moment in your life, but the obstacle is still there further down the line. Just looking at the negatives, so quite often the human brain can have a focus on everything being bad, whereas actually if you do find yourself doing those things, actually thinking to yourself, okay, well, yes, this might be negative, but trying to actually draw out the positives and make a list of them can be really helpful. And then also with health, we can often fall into poor eating habits, particularly in assessment periods. You might find that you're focusing on your studies so much that you have little time for healthy eating, but it is really important to plan some time into your schedule for, healthy food, because that will fuel you and that will keep you going. And also overworking as well. This can be difficult in an assessment period when you've got a lot of work to do, but it is really important to make sure that you do take some time away from your studies as well. So academic stress in particular is quite common to experience at university, and it's for a number of reasons. So you might feel that you're under particular pressure to do well. You might have set yourself really high standards. You might have a lot of different commitments. So as well as your academic studies, you might be managing part-time work. There's also could be a change in environment and learning style, so particularly relevant if you are in your first year particularly. You might just be a case of finding the work overwhelming and not understanding what you need to do. Or you might also have worries about the future as well. So be thinking how this is all going to link to your future employability and what you want to do once you've left university. So again, just a chance for you to pause the video and do some self-reflection and just reflect back briefly on a time when you've experienced academic stress. It might be something that you've already experienced at university, or it might be something from pre-university, and have a think about what made that situation so stressful for you and what you could have done differently in that situation. Okay, so now you've unpaused the video, hopefully you've had a chance to think about your own experiences, and now I'm going to move on to talking you through some tips for dealing with academic stress. So essentially, if you experienced a negative, stressful experience again, some guidance on how you could change your perception to hopefully help you to deal with these stresses in the future. So the first one is all about mindset and keeping it all in perspective. And this is easier said than done, but essentially there is much more to life than just your assessments, and you are more than just your assessments. And even if you do badly in one assessment, that's only one snapshot. You can improve your grade in future modules. And you can still be absolutely successful in life, even if you do badly in a module. They don't define you. If you're focused on thinking about your future career prospects and your future study, it's important to remember that employers are just as interested in your attitude and your transferable skills that you develop as your degree results as well. And academic success isn't the sole part of what defines you as a person. So when maybe you're in times of stress, think about the things that you've actually achieved rather than just focusing on the negatives. So sometimes you might be thinking, oh, I'm never going to get all of this work done. I've missed this deadline. But actually think about, okay, well, I have done this and I have done that, and maybe tick things off your list. And once you've actually done an assessment, once you've submitted it and handed it in, whether or not that's coursework or an online exam, just try not to think about it anymore, because there's nothing further that you can do, and worrying isn't going to change your mark. Obviously, you can seek support once you get your marks to help you to understand ways to go forward if it hasn't gone as well as you'd have hoped. So the second bit of advice is all about getting organised. So being organised can obviously help you to reduce stress, because you'll know when things like deadlines or exams are, and setting yourself small achievable challenges each day. That will help you to avoid stress and think about, well, what am I going to do today? But also really important just to even work out the basics. Actually just think about when your exam dates are, when your deadlines are, how much everything is weighted, so you can decide how to prioritise according to these dates, and also how easy or difficult you find a topic. But also really importantly, in terms of your organisation, is making sure that you actually include study breaks into your timetable. So don't just plan out your day in full with revision or coursework, making sure that you do actually put some time in for relaxation, particularly after a study session. And, it is important to set goals, but don't panic if you don't actually achieve your goals that day. Perhaps you've tackled something that was harder than you expected. You can always then review your plans and your schedule for future days. The third point is to get into healthy study habits. So having a healthy routine can actually help with concentration and reduce stress. Studies have shown that it's actually better to study in an attentive way for 30 to 45 minutes and then take a break than to spend hours at a screen but losing focus. So you can use timers or apps to help chunk your day into that kind of study and rest sessions. I alluded to this before, but it is important to make sure you eat a well balanced diet so that you're getting the fuel that your body needs for your study. And obviously, in terms of your health as well, drinking plenty of water, keeping active, and getting plenty of fresh air, and your sleep as well. Try and get about 8 hours sleep and relaxing before you go to sleep. So don't study right up to sleep time. Give yourself time to switch off. Otherwise, your mind will just be whirring with all your study worries as you sleep. So obviously they were the healthy habits. So point 4 is about avoiding the bad habits. So these are the things that you would need to avoid. So not setting yourself unachievable goals, as then when you don't actually meet them at the end of your daily goal, you will feel even more stress. So making sure that you chunk your work down. But also try not to be too hard on yourself as well. We can sometimes be our own worst enemy. So think about your inner voice and think about what you say to yourself, and think about how you would speak to a friend and speak to yourself with the same kindness. The next one is about not leaving assignments to the last minute. This is easier said than done. I'm sure you'll have heard this advice time and time again, but it is absolutely crucial. You never know when IT, for example, could let you down. You know, you lose your Wi-Fi. Whereas at least if you've worked in kind of contingency time for your assignments, then any last minute problems won't necessarily be as detrimental to you. And as tempting as it can be to you feel that you might be spending all your day studying, it can actually be counterproductive. As I mentioned before, making sure that you put those breaks in, and then also avoiding stimulants like caffeine and drugs. Although in the short term they may help you to stay awake to keep an assignment finished, they can actually affect your concentration in the long term. And then the last area is about your support and well-being. So first and foremost, I'd advise to try and set up a study group with friends or course mates. Even in these virtual times, you can still study with others. You can set up online study groups. But really important that even though you can get help and support from each other, that you don't start comparing yourself to others, because we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. Discussing your goals with other people, such as your friends or peers or tutors, can really help you to stay focused. Obviously, if you actually articulate your goal to someone else, it can help you to feel more accountable for it. If you feel worried, make sure that you do talk to someone to get things out of your system. We'd really say don't suffer in silence, as talking to someone can often give you a different perspective and help you to see a different way to solve the problem, as can looking after your overall well-being. So all of the things that you should do to keep yourself mentally well and healthy, make sure that you do carry on with those even during times of exam stress. And making use of university support systems. They're absolutely there for a reason. So whether or not that's wellbeing support that you might need from student services, or academic support from your academic school, or additional academic support, do make use of those systems that are available. And then just some tips here from student stories. So from student minds, provide some tips that you might want to have a look at, as they can be really helpful. So starting small. If you struggle with motivation, start by doing something, even if it's, just a basic bit of reading, but actually doing that will actually help with your future exams and assessments. Getting your practice in, so looking over past exam questions, for example, or trying to practice exam conditions. So preparing for what your exam is going to look like if they were online this year, just making sure that you get into that good study mindset. And then also just really to reiterate the importance of taking a break. So a good way of doing that is breaking it up with some exercise, whether or not that's actually going out and about on a brisk walk, or going to the gym, or if for whatever reason you are having to isolate, you can still do some exercise in your room as well. It'll just kind of like help your mind to switch off a little bit, but also get a burst of energy as well.